Hello and welcome to DFS Coach Talk. It is Friday, April 2nd, 2021. I am Andrew Hansen, joined once again by Joe Sarvati, affectionately known as Coach. And he's back just in time for a full 10-game slate in NBA DFS. And we're going to build a two brains are better than one GPP lineup on FanDuel. Coach, are you ready?
I am very ready. Yesterday focused a little more on opening day baseball. That really paid off for our members. We had a really fun start to the season, so that was cool. But you know me, I'm a basketball guy true and through. So I could not wait to get back on here. And this is what you call a juicy slate. Tons of news, great games. This is gonna be fun.
Yeah, I joked on the solo podcast yesterday that you were going to take the rest of the weekend off and focus on baseball after a
Ha.
big basketball win that you had on Wednesday. But here you are. I think our listeners probably saw right through that and knew you'd be back in the saddle here on Friday. But yeah,
Well,
great.
I'll tell you what, I had a pretty premium April Fool's Day though. I got several people, including our man Josh with baseball. He was freaking out. A couple of our medicated B, one of our members, a couple other members that had a lot of fun with it. I tried to get you, but you saw through it. So I think the fact that we talk 7 days out of seven, you probably know me pretty good when I'm trying to stretch one. So,
Yeah, you had me a little bit on one of the golf ones, but then
oh,
after that,
okay.
I was on my toes and ready for you. So,
I'll
uh,
take the small victory. That
yeah,
works.
yeah. Well, we're going to go for some big victories here today. So
Let's do it.
let's go one at a time here. 10-game slate. Start us off with that 7 o'clock game.
Yep. No late start today. So we've got the 7 p.m. first game. It is the only game at the first click there. It's Golden State at Toronto. We have Toronto a 2.5 point favorite and a 223 over under. And those lines are brought to us by our partners at betus.com.pa, best book in the business. We've got Golden State on the second night of a back-to-back. And obviously, with the Curry's injury recently, he is questionable and becomes a big point in this game to watch very closely. On the Portland side, Hood is out. I'm sorry, on the Toronto side, I want to say Portland because I
Right.
think he's still there. But on the Raptors side, it's hard to wrap yourself around that Norman Powell and Hood and Gary Trent Jr. It's
Big
very
time.
odd.
Yep.
I got to tell you this. I know we're on a tight schedule today, but it's too coincidental to be an incredible stat. Do you know that Gary Trent Sr. was drafted by Portland, and 4 years and 19 days into his career, he was traded to the Toronto Raptors. Gary Trent Jr. was drafted by Portland, 4 years, 19 days
No
to
way.
the day,
No
was
way.
traded to the
That
Raptors.
is
I swear to
incredible.
God. It is the
Wow.
craziest thing I've ever heard coincidental wise. Uh, Almost an impossibility, but there
Insane.
you go. So there's the great quiz of the day. All right, let's talk about pace in this game because it's important. Fourth and 10th, you got to love that. Defense, ninth for Golden State, but they've been hovering. Toronto still down in 18th, so, below average defense pretty consistently all year. So my question here, Andrew, and I'll go. I know we have lots of games to do today, but I do have one question for you. Toronto's 18 and 30. They sat, Lowry the
Lowry.
last game, yeah, and there's talk about shutting him down. There's this and that. 12 games under 500. Is Toronto going to make a push, or are they just sort of mailing it in at this point? What do you think?
It's a great question, and I'm not ready to answer it yet. They may not know themselves, but
Okay,
I'm going to be looking pretty closely here at the next week and
yeah.
see what develops and then see if Lowry comes back. But with this new play-in system, there's still plenty of the time for them to secure their spot and be dangerous in the playoffs. So I'm not ready to write them off yet.
Yeah, that's the truth. If it was the old system where you didn't have those extra teams getting in, I would think at some point they just want to say, this has been a nightmare season. We're not even in our home court. Let's just mail in. But, we've really taken Raptors a lot this year. I mean, Lowry, Van Vliet have been good to us, and Powell before he left. Trent Jr. on Anunoby's been really successful in spots, and certainly Siakam has been a big play for us. So, what do we look for in this game? I mean, I am going to assume, like you, that these teams are going to go out there and play and go after it. And I, for right now, am going to rule Curry in. We'll see how it goes as the day goes on. But, I sort of like Curry in this spot. I like Fred VanVleet in this spot again. And I know that's chasing points a little bit, and his price is high. But those two guys, if they get their minutes in this kind of matchup with this kind of pace, I don't think there's any problem with having exposure right off the opening tip here. Siakam, it takes a little downgrade because he's going to get some Draymond Green defense for me. And then, Gary Trent's price is now normalized a little bit. Excuse me, and it's not bad, but I don't think I'm going to go there. So for me in this game, I'm going to look at these point guards and see if I can fit them in and make sure that they're going to get full run. And that'll be the key for me.
Yeah, I'm open to getting a player or two in this game. Draymond, I'm looking at a little bit on Golden State. How does he respond on a back-to-back? It's not a big journey from Miami to Tampa, but full run for him last night. On the Toronto side, Van Vliet is the guy that I'm looking at the most, probably, along with OG Anunoby. Anunoby has been so solid lately.
Great.
Just
Yeah.
excellent. And Van Vliet, he had that big game, but it was obviously because Lowry was out, and he's still out. So I think you can look at Van Vliet and Anunoby. And Trent has had two great games in a row, but does he go for a third? He just doesn't quite do too much else besides scoring. So I probably shy away there and look at Van Vliet or Anunoby.
Yeah, I'm on the Anunoby bandwagon as well, and his price is still fair enough that you can put him in some spots. So good call.
All right, game two, we move to 7:30. Houston in Boston to play the Celtics. The Celtics 9.5-point favorites, 223.5 total. John Wall is questionable for Houston. First time we've said that all season.
Yeah.
Or just the first time in a couple days. Boston, we have Robert Williams back in the lineup and available.
Oh, don't make me mad, Andrew.
Yeah. And then Tristan Thompson still out and Semi Ojeleye still out. So pretty decent pace here with Houston being fifth, Boston middle of the road, and they've got that below average defense. So a decent game environment. And if John Wall sits, let's just say that he does, then we've got a nice situation for Porter Jr. at a good price against Boston's 22nd ranked defense. So I like him a lot here. Sterling Brown, if he gets the start, he's playable for me in the 4K range. He is really inconsistent, even with big minutes. He'll get you 35 fantasy points or 15. So Be careful with that one. Christian Wood, a couple things I like about him here are that he got 35 minutes in the last game, and now he's back to being power forward eligible on FanDuel.
That's nice.
So at 8,000, he's playable for me. I do certainly respect Robert Williams' defense, but Wood, rolling out there in a decent tempo game. If John Wall's not there, I think he's going to get a lot of opportunity to pay off that value. On the Houston bench, we've got a return to Boston for Avery Bradley and Kelly Olynyk.
Interesting.
Olynyk,
once removed for Olynyk, right?
Yeah, once removed for both of them, really.
Oh, for both, yeah.
Olynyk's been playing really well here since the transition to Houston.
Yeah.
Probably a little pricey for me coming off the bench. The guy that I kind of think is kind of intriguing for me here is KJ Martin Jr., because I just think that this is the type of game where he can come off the bench and with his energy go get a bunch of rebounds. Boston is not good on the defensive glass, and he's going to be playing a decent amount of time when Robert Williams is out, and of course Tristan Thompson's still out. Tice is gone, so he could come in and do some damage off the bench for a GPP option. On the Celtics side, everybody, all the key guys there are ready to go. So it's tough for me to zero in on one with these price tags. Tatum, I really liked his aggressiveness against Dallas, taking 24 shots, but he was only 1 of 8 on threes. So just not quite clicking. But if he kind of takes the reins here, then he could pay off value. So he's probably the guy I would look to pay up the most here. But I'm more likely to go with Porter Jr. here, and maybe even Wood. Maybe get a couple Rockets tonight.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, this game is intriguing. I mean, if Wall's in, I takes my for Kevin Porter Jr. away a bit because of the split of some of the usage there. But if Wall's out, I think Porter's in play. I know they have Marcus Smart defense and everything, but man, it's one of the weird things of this season for me is why I've never seen the Celtics look so flat defensively. And it's consistently, they just look like they're confused out there. And that's so odd for a Brad Stevens team, but it's been a consistent theme. So I don't know why we can't really expect anything different until we see it. But, so I'm looking at Porter if Wall's out. The Olynyk thing, now that they're playing him alongside Wood a lot as well, that, shrinks down Wood's, really the potential of him having one of those 70-point, 60-point games that he threw a few on the board, when he first got there. So, it's odd, but I don't like that rebounding share somewhat with Olynyk playing next to Wood. So not really planning on going in that direction. I do have a guy I'm targeting on Boston, and it's a guy I normally don't. I like Jaylen Brown today. I think this game fits for him. The pace is good. It's a really good pace-up game with Houston being fifth. I don't think they have the guy to guard him. I think that they'll try some different guys, House, Porter, etc., and I don't think they'll be able to check him at all. I think the Tatum will get the teeth of the Jayshawn Tate defense, and that will at least contain him a bit. And he's been so inconsistent from deep that it's hard to be really sold on his play. So I'm a big Jaylen Brown guy today, which is odd. Robert Williams, we all had him in our lineup. That's what I had alluded to earlier. And he got scratched like 3 minutes or 4 minutes before lock. And that was sort of a mysterious scratch. I always think that he's in play, but his pricing now has gotten to the point where, you're going to have to really pay if you get him. And Christian Wood is a terrific defender. I'll tell you, one of the best stories of the season, I think, is the fact that Christian Wood was just like a sliver away from not being in the NBA multiple times. Then he gets a little bit of a chance buried on the bench, though, in Detroit behind Drummond and guys. Can't get on the floor. Only because injuries does he show a glimmer of hope. And then he has a couple of good games, gets a contract, which ends up being like super bargain basement for Houston. And now the guy plays like he looks like an all-star, not just offensively, but on the glass. And he's a great defender. So, because of that defensive prowess, I don't think I'm going to go to Williams at that price. I think he's a decent play, but, I'm probably just going to skip out of this game with a little Jaylen Brown and be on my way.
All right. Well, your Mavericks are next. Are you going to turn in that direction?
Oh, the Mavericks game. The Mavericks are favored by 5.5, which is quite a bit. 213.5 is the lowest total in a Mavs game in a long time. And that just shows, why the Knicks are so slow. It is 19th and 27th pace. Dallas has not been good defensively consistently all year. They're 23rd. They have moved up from 27th, so I guess that's some movement in the right direction. We know Knicks have had top 5 defense all year, and they remain there. The big thing here is going to be, are Barrett and Rose going to play? They're both questionable. They're two guys that get very key minutes for this team. If they're in there, Barrett hasn't missed, I don't believe, a game. So that's a big open spot if he sits. I'm not going to spend the buku bucks on Luka and Porzingis just because I know Thibodeau's going to run some doubles at Luka, and I know that they're going to slow the pace way down, and especially if they're shorthanded at the guard side, they're going to walk it up, they're going to use the shot clock, and you really can't afford to spend those enormous bucks on this size of a slate, in my opinion, for guys that aren't just going to get enough possessions. And I know Luka can get a triple double before you can blink. He's sort of like Westbrook, but it's still going to catch up at some point. And I'm
No
just,
love for Porzingis going back to New York.
well, here's the thing. Things ended so badly there. There were all those allegations and bad blood. And I think now that fans are back, not in full, but back enough, they're going to boo the living daylights out of him. I think he's going to be a little distracted. He's not, doesn't strike me. And we've had, this discussion a little bit in the past. He just doesn't strike me as, a tough backbone guy that just is super competitive and rises to the occasion. Yeah, he's a freak. He's 7'3" and can play like a guard and shoot like a two guard. But as far as between the ears, I just don't think he's that tough. And I think Knicks fans and Philly fans are probably the two, New York and Philly fans are the two toughest groups. I think he gets harassed a little bit, and they'll make it ugly, because I don't know if you remember the story from years back, but there were like rape allegations and all these terrible things. So I think that gets in his head a little bit with them taunting him, which I think they'll do. And I know that sounds like I'm digging deep on it, but I think that is more of the narrative than him in the repay of the narrative. So plus the Knicks play great D. They're going to stick Nerlens Noel up his nose, and then Taj Gibson is going to wear him like a blanket. So I just don't want to go there. As great as Luka is, also, I just don't think there's enough possession. So I'm off the Mavericks tonight. I just don't think that it's worth it. Both are also on the first night of a back-to-back, and Carlisle's also, babies his guys. So there'll be a minutes reduction if it's possible. The guy that I'm going to go and spend up for, and I'm going to have to sit there and root against my Mavericks again like a dum-dum, but DFS is DFS. I don't see how they stop Julius Randle. I mean, Dallas has consistently gotten killed by guys in the paint and the mid-range game after game after game. And Randle's probably in the top 3 in the league in that category. And I just think he's a monster here. I mean, Mitch Robb being out actually helps Randle a little bit, because Noel's rebound numbers are a little lower than Mitch Robb, and blocks and such. So, I think he picks up. If Barrett's out, then it even compounds more. Julius is going to be, talk about ice in your left shoulder because all the shots. He's definitely going to take a lot of shots. So he's my favorite pay up guy on the slate, believe it or not. And with the news with Rose, I also want to see. I think that Elfrid Payton has a possible shot here, and if both Rose and Barrett out, it brings Burks into play. So, I'm going to have to I have an old Knicks hat somewhere. I'm going to have to dig that out. My son will probably throw me out. But I may go 2 Knicks in this game and 0 Mavericks, and then just try to not, cry about it.
Yeah, your points make a lot of sense. I like Randall as well. And Peyton is a big target for me here. If either Rose or RJ Barrett are out, he's such a great price on both sites, and he got up to 28 minutes last game.
Yeah.
So I like Peyton here. Noel is also interesting here as a GPP option going against his former team. But yeah,
That's true.
I like Randall and Peyton here. There's a decent chance I'll get a good amount of shares of both of them tonight.
Be careful. The Noel Taj Gibson split is starting to happen a lot. I noticed since Mitch Robb went down this last time. You know how, Tibbs counts on those old guys that he had before, and he finished actually. Gibson, he finished the game last game. So just something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, they both played 24 minutes. So
yeah,
that's true.
I guess that's a split.
That is a split. All right, let's move to 8 o'clock. We've got Charlotte. I guess I have to say the name of their team, and Indiana. A 4-point favorite here are the Pacers at home, 221.5 total. And this is a back-to-back for Charlotte. And somehow I got stuck with this game. And I'm still
swear words in the chat about the
I'm
Hornets last
still
night.
reeling from their performance last night. It was really surprising to me
It's
that
nuts.
playing against Brooklyn, that they just had such a dud. They got smoked by 22, and they're behind big the whole game. And I wish I'd listened to what I had said more about how, because it was a front end of a back to back, there was a risk with Charlotte, and I just didn't think they'd get blown out.
No, nobody did.
So it would have been better in a GPP situation, but to see Graham play 21 minutes,
It was disgusting.
Rozier 27, Hayward 29, they all shot below 50%. So just a tremendous dud for those guys. How do they rebound here? Better pace, well, a good pace game, not a better pace game, but Indiana is eighth, which I again continue to be struck by. That's just higher than I would
Yeah,
have pictured for them, and they're
I
rising.
agree.
They
Yeah.
were out of the top 10, then 10th, then ninth, then 8th. So they're gradually moving up the charts there. They do have a top 10 defense. Do we go back to any of those guys? Probably not. The one narrative here is that we've got Gordon Hayward going back to Indiana, and he's only
Yeah.
7,000 on FanDuel, which is a price that he can certainly pay off.
Sure.
The other key news here is that Monk is doubtful. I saw him limp off the court after he'd been questionable with a foot issue, so I really don't think he's going to play, and that will give more minutes to those key guys. So we'll see. I'm not going to roster more than one of them. Graham, I think, is still a really good price on FanDuel. Indiana side, we have Sabonis questionable and Lamb questionable. That'll be huge. If Sabonis sits, then Doug McDermott comes into play. He's in the 3K range on both sites.
Right.
Turner also gets a little bit of a bump. He's playable in my mind at 6,000, but not the best game environment overall. In addition to Charlotte having a back to back, it's a front end for Indiana. Holiday still priced at 3,800 on FanDuel. Once again, last game took 8 threes, so
Yeah.
he's got the potential. I don't think I'll go to any of the key Indiana guys here, though. Just the way that this slate plays out. We'll see, though, with the Sabonis news if anything changes. But most likely a value play for somebody like Holiday or McDermott if Sabonis is out, or I just pass this one.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. I don't think this is the best game scripting possibility here when you see how this one rolls out. I mean, the both teams being on one side of a back to back or the other, defenses are decent, pace is just decent but not tremendous, and then you've got a lot of rotation of guys for some of these teams. It's tempting with Charlotte since LaMelo's out and Monk's probably going to be out. Graham, Rozier, and Hayward are the first three guys that pop up for me in this game. And I'm tempted on those guys because I know they were horrible last night, but at least they didn't play a ton of minutes. So they should have something in the tank. I do like Rozier. His price isn't great at all, but I think he's dangerous here to throw up a big game. He should get extended minutes. And I wouldn't blame anybody for going to Rozier or Graham or Hayward. I wouldn't stack them, but when I weighed the three of them, Rozier came up best for me. Don't want to mess with the big stuff with Charlotte. It's just not really worth it on this side of a slate. If Sabonis sits, like you said, it does bring Turner in. I think Turner will be over-owned though. If Sabonis sits, everybody's going to think, okay, Turner's going to get 25 rebounds, blah blah blah. I don't think it's as impactful as you think. I think that what they'll do is Goga will get extra time off the bench, and he's been playing great. That guy's talented. He can shoot threes. He's really big. He gets rebounds. So I think he gets some run. They may dust off Jakar Sampson and let him, they always seem to do that when Sabonis or Turner are out. All of a sudden, Jakar Sampson gets 15, 16 minutes and gets some things done. I agree with you, though. I think if he sits, that McDermott ends up being the prize in the mix here because his price is so low. His DFS points per minute are good, and his usage is solid when he's in there. I mean, he's a really good key contributor. So I would consider him at the super low price. Um, I agree. I don't want to pay up really for the other guys on Indiana, but it's funny. I mean, one of the two seems to mention Justin Holiday like every 2 or 3 days, and we always say, "Wow, his price is still so low, and he's taken this many shots and all these minutes." And we never pull the trigger on him, but it's getting to the point now at his price point that he is. I think he's a good value play, and I think what happens is we talk about it like that, and then as the day goes on, better value opens up and we pivot off of them. But if it doesn't, I'm going to keep Justin, in the back of my mind here because, he doesn't need much to pay off, and he certainly gets the shots up. I mean, they run plays for him. I was really impressed the other day. They came out of a timeout and they ran a staggered screen, and it was strictly for a shot for Justin Holiday. So he is a key component to that team. I've got the frog in the throat today. So, again, not my favorite game on the card, but I think, you can look at Rozier if you have salary and maybe go with a real good value play in Holiday or McDermott. All right. It's Minnesota-Memphis, right?
Yes, sir.
231, Andrew. Can we set the siren off? That's one of our 230 specials.
Yep.
We've got Minnesota on the first night of a back-to-back. So right now, pace second and sixth. So I love the way these games come out. I get the better games almost all the time, and it's just by happenstance, Defense for Minnesota, Gotti 27th. 7th for Memphis, though. Okogie questionable. We got Allen questionable, Winslow out. Triple J, same scenario that we've had here for a while. This is a fun game to look at. I mean, you've got two teams that want to score. They want to get up and down. I've finally jumped on your McDaniels bandwagon. It's taken a while. He had that monster game and then just an average game. I think he's a real talent. I think they've decided they're going to give him serious minutes, and I think he deserves consideration in this matchup. Anthony Edwards is always a possibility for me, but I'm afraid he gets a little Dylan Brooks harassment today, so I don't want to spend quite that much on him. Malik Beasley has been god-awful, though. I mean, his shooting percentage is a joke, but the potential's there. I mean, I guarantee you one of these days he's going to break the slate. And, I'd love to be on him when he does it, but I just don't know if I have the guts to do it. Not liking really the Cat Joval matchup, I think is, Cat's not a good defender, but Joval, I think, will muscle him a bit. So I don't want to use that spend up for him. I think the best play in this game is probably Ja Morant. His price is so low, and, he does have somewhat of a curtailed ceiling just because of some inconsistencies in minutes and such, but I do think the matchup is great. The pace, the defense he's going to get. I think this is a game he could really shine and do well, especially at the price point that he is. So as great as this game is with the 231 number, I can see myself having a one-off from each side, maybe McDaniels and Ja, but I'm not going to stack this game, although I do like it. What do you think?
Yeah, it's certainly stackable.
Yep.
You could get several guys in here and hope for a double overtime game like Atlanta, San Antonio last night, and you smash it. These teams have that potential with this pace. And I also lean towards these Memphis guys with the bad Minnesota defense. Ja right there in play for me. I like Dylan Brooks as well. Good price. You see wings do well against Minnesota. Sure. And he's the kind of guy who can have a ceiling game if he's shooting well, because he will take a lot of shots.
Oh yeah.
Then Kyle Anderson is, worth mentioning if Clark is out again, but it seems like Clark is available and ready to go, so I probably won't go there. And I will look at Joval though. These teams played earlier this season, and he had 24 and 16, and Cat was playing in that one. And I'm not a huge Joe Val fan because of his inconsistencies, but I think he's capable here of paying off value. On the Minnesota side, yeah, Jane McDaniels really making a name for himself here recently, and he's gone 9x and then 7x. Now his price is up a little bit, so not the trend that you want. But here's the thing I kind of like, really digging into his performance. He's shooting more threes and shooting really well. He's 11 out of his last 20 on three-pointers.
Man.
So that really helps him with these stealing games because he does all the other stuff, blocks and steals and rebounds. So if he's shooting it well again, then, he could easily smash again. So he's in consideration. And then Beasley, I agree with you. He's got the capability to smash that price tag. And he did shoot well in the last game, hit 5 3-pointers, but he hasn't done quite as much else with Edwards out there. And it feels like a different role for him than earlier in the season when these guys played. He went 28, 6, and 5.
Yeah.
So, that was the type of game you were looking for with Beasley. He hasn't done it yet since he's come back with Edwards. So, a little risky for me. So, maybe McDaniels, but more likely a Grizzly or two for me tonight.
One last thing about McDaniels that really stands out for me. The last 2 games, I watched him quite a bit. Do you know that I believe that he is the best defender on that team? And he guarded the best player from the other team in all the key situations and down the stretch. So here's a coach that's counting on a guy to be a major offensive contributor and the best defensive contributor. So I feel like his minutes are lock solid, and I think that we're going to see his price continue to rise, and he's going to become a really popular DFS player throughout the rest of the season. In my opinion, I'd rather get him now before he goes up another $1,000.
Yeah, terrific length and athleticism for sure.
Yep.
All right, second half of the slate here. And again, reminder, we're going to build our 2 brains are better than one lineup on FanDuel here at the end of the show so that you can plug it in on FanDuel in your GPPs. And then follow us on Twitter for any changes to that lineup at DFS Coach Talk.
Yes.
All right, we've got Atlanta in New Orleans. Both teams coming off an overtime game last night. Atlanta, 2 of them, as I mentioned, in that win over San Antonio. New Orleans with that tough overtime loss to Orlando. They didn't have their 3 key guys, Zion, Brandon Ingram, and Lonzo Ball, so we're going to mark them questionable again for this one. And on Atlanta, we still are going to have John Collins out, DeAndre Hunter out. Now, we've got a close spread here, 1.5. Hawks are favored, 223.5 total. And we have 4 of the 6 variables that we want. Both bad defenses, both very good offenses. The only thing we don't like, pace, 26 and 21. So you combine the slow pace with both teams playing an overtime game last night. I'm a little concerned about the game because of that. But, the other variables in the game do make it attractive. So gotta really pay attention here and figure out who's going to play. If Zion and Ingram and Lonzo Ball are out again, then I will consider these value guys. Nickeil Alexander-Walker, just absolutely awesome.
He's tough, man. We've been crying for him from day one.
Yep, scored over 30 points. Terrific play. Plays with confidence. Aggressive with his shot. Still a good price. He's playable for me. Hart, he's had 2 straight games with at least 14 points and at least 14 rebounds.
That's insane.
Phenomenal. Yeah. He's still a good price.
How can he get all those rebounds? He's a little dude.
He's so aggressive. I love the way he plays. He's been nicked up a little bit, his right thumb. But, so looking at the numbers at the end of the night last night, he was 1 for 6 on threes. So you wonder, well, is that right thumb affecting his shot? But he was 5 for 6 on free throws. So I think that's not enough of an issue to fade him. And again, if all those guys are out, I think you can go back to Hart, although he did play 47 minutes, so we'll see what he has left in the tank. James Johnson was a huge value for us, and we were on him.
He was
from the beginning of the night.
Dead men.
Yeah, dead men. Price projected him as a starter. He was awesome. Could happen again. Kyra Lewis Jr. got 33 minutes. decent line, took 13 shots. He's still a good price. So all those guys are in play for me if the key guys for New Orleans are out. On the Atlanta side, our man Bogdan, should we just call him Mr. 10X?
I think so, man. I think we should call him. You should have a crown on like we did in the old days when you used to beat me in the contest. You've been calling for Bogdanovich. I got to love on you a little bit here because we had some members sort of barking at you, like, why are you just playing Bogdanovich every slate? And this was before he got plugged back into that starting lineup. And I'll tell you what, man, he is a great player. He was a great signing, and he is an outstanding second banana for Young, and he's been killing it. So, hats off to you. And I know all our members were just loving it. We had Godfather of Gains, was giving you, the you are his agent treatment, like I was too, but in a fun way. So great stuff there, great call. And when you watch him play, and last night I was watching, he got a lot of minutes too. The dude never looks tired. He never sweats. He never breathes hard. It's just that stroke is there. So anyway, I wanted to go on a little Bogdanovich rant there.
Yeah,
awesome.
we should celebrate him. And
We
Coach,
should.
I had the crown here on the table, believe it or not, still. So I've got it thrown
No.
on. Celebrate a little Bogdanovich here. Mr. 10X, he's going straight to the Hall of Fame, and that was a lot of fun joking around with the members with him last night. And he won the tug of war against FanDuel, 4,200 10X. Nope, they keep him at 4,200 10X again. By the way, in regulation, this is not one of those double overtime games. Oh, sure, he had a stealing game because it was double overtime. No, he had 10X in regulation. So he won the tug of war because today he's 5,500.
Ouch.
So
yeah.
now he's
little
just
gut punch there.
Yeah, similar performance. He'll just be at 8X today. So
we don't like 8X.
No,
we want double digits.
we don't want 8X guys. But can you go back to him? Yeah, you can at 5,500. Playable, but big minutes for him too. 45 minutes last night. And Trae Young, so he was the flip side. He ended up with 30 points, but if it had only been a regulation game, he would have not even come close to his value.
No. He looks hurt.
Yeah, he's dinged up with the knee. Didn't take a 3-pointer until late in the fourth quarter.
I know.
And then he kind of took over in the overtime sessions, and the offense was running through him. So
I'd beware though. I just didn't think he looked right.
Yeah, so I'm not going to go there. Capella was awesome. Gallinari was good, but he played 36 minutes. Lou Williams got that first action, played 22 minutes, took 10 shots.
And then he went for chicken wings at his favorite spot, right?
Yeah.
That's why he's back in Atlanta.
Right. So on a normal slate without overtime last night, I'd probably be more excited about this game. But depending on the value, I may get another Pelican or two out there tonight.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. I think Vegas tells you the story here. The line from BetUS.com.pa is 223.5. Normally in this game with these two teams, even though Atlanta's defense has improved a little, you would think it'd be close to 230. And I think they see that the potential of some of these studs sitting and these teams both being a little tired. So that gives me a little cause of warning also. So I don't really want to pay up for the Atlanta guys as much as they crushed for us yesterday. I'm still interested in the Pelicans. I think not all of these guys are going to be back. I can't imagine. There's going to be a staggering of some of them playing or not playing. So if you just get Ingram back or just Zion, then by all means, they're in a great spot to smash. So you got to go that direction. But if two of the three sit out, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Kyra Lewis, those guys, and of course, Josh Hart, they have to be considered the best value on the slate right now if that's the case. So I think you just keep an eye on the news in this game. And then, I do want exposure here, but I'm not going to overdo it. Whereas in a normal situation without all the variances that you mentioned, I would probably stack it, but not. I think we just need to watch how it plays out, see who's going to be in there. And if all the news isn't in, this is a perfect spot, to save a spot, plug Zion in there or whatever. save that spot. And if you get news before that game, then there's a bunch of games afterwards. You can easily shift them out. So you got to start planning for stuff like that if you don't now, because with all of this news, people don't really pay enough attention. And if they do make a pivot, sometimes they get screwed over and have to take a guy that's not, conducive. So if you're playing, especially on places where you can play that, that extra guy that can be in any position, like on DraftKings and Yahoo, that's where you want to plug these guys in. It opens up more possibilities. But where you're strapped in on FanDuel, look through it and say, if this happens, this is the 2v2 I'm going to make to get to where I want to be. So just a little thing I want to throw out there, because this is a perfect scenario for something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Especially on DraftKings where they have the crown there as the symbol. Make sure you put him in the utility spot so you can pivot to anybody in those late games.
Yep. So I've got Chicago, Utah.
Yeah.
Yep, 224.5. Utah favored by a big 12.5. First night of a back-to-back for Utah. Pace 7th and 13th. So decent pace for sure. Chicago in the middle of the pack defensively. Utah third. We know they're tough on D. But the big news here is who's going to play and who's not. Donovan Mitchell questionable, Ingles probable. But for Chicago, we've got the backcourt of White and Levine, both questionable. Temple already ruled out. So there's a lot of possibilities that can happen in this game. It isn't going to be a target game for me anyway, because I do think, the Bulls are going to be okay, but they changed out a massive part of their roster with bringing Vuk in and sending some guys out. I think it's going to take them a while to get real comfortable with each other. And especially now with guys injured, I don't think they're going to have the real good continuity. Utah, on the other hand, even with Mitchell out, they have that base of 7 or 8 guys. They play max. They all know their roles. They know how to fill in for everybody else that's out there. So the double-digit spread and the not too high of over/under, it definitely gives me some caution of overplaying here. I do see a few prices though that are odd to me. Patrick Williams seems just so incredibly cheap for a guy that plays quite a few minutes that, in a pickle, if we don't have a whole lot of value open up, I think he's worth a look. The other Bogdanovich, the one I have a tendency to back more often, smashed for me the last time. And he seems to be, and nobody played it that way. Everybody played, they jumped on Clarkson, they jumped on Ingles. They were, looking for everybody that was going to take that Mitchell usage. And it's pretty easy to see going back the last couple of years here, when Bogdanovich is out there, it opens up more shots for him more than anybody else. And he took advantage of that and he hit them. So, I like him again in this spot if Mitchell sits. Again, because just the value piece of it, and it's a differentiator. It gives you some good leverage. So I'm looking that direction possibly. Not really interested in the bigs here. And so, a 1v1 here could happen. Satoransky definitely got a more run, more usage with Levine and White out, but we need to see what those guys' status are beforehand. Don't get sucked into the one game, great game of Denzel Valentine. He does that like once every 20 games. He'll have 35, 40 fantasy points, and then everybody rosters him and he gets 9. So I'm not going there. I think that's a trap, but that's how I see that one rolling out.
Yeah, I wish I'd played him last late because I mentioned him on the podcast and then didn't play him, and he was
I know.
awesome.
I thought about it too.
Yeah.
I was furious.
Yeah.
It's one of those where you're almost rooting harder for a guy for no reason at all to do bad because you just don't want to kick yourself in the butt.
Yeah, that's all right. Well, thankfully we have a new slate here today. And if those guys are out, Levine and White, I'll look at Satoransky, even Patrick Williams or Lauri Markkanen as starters getting more of an opportunity, even though it's a tough matchup. I think one of those guys can certainly pay off the price tag. And with Utah, Donovan Mitchell is interesting to me because I do think he'll play. It seems like the reason he didn't play last game was because the Utah Jazz had a lot of trouble on their flight. And
isn't that the craziest story?
yeah, so he stayed home. So I think he'll be out there. And
Did you hear what happened
yeah,
on that?
they had a lot of trouble. They had to, land the plane and
Well,
yeah,
they ran into a bunch of
yep,
birds, and there was like blood splattered all over the side of the plane, and he just like freaked out,
right,
and doesn't want to get on a plane now, and it was just, you talk about a weird story, but yeah, craziness, man. So he's healthy. That's why I
exactly,
wanted to bring it up again. It's not like he's hurt.
exactly.
So
And we look at
yeah,
what Booker just did to Chicago in that
you're
spot on the
right.
wing. He
Yeah,
scored what 44, 45 points.
yeah.
And Mitchell's been playing awesome lately. So you could look there.
He could be a great, great sneaky play,
Yep.
unless they start chanting or throwing birds at him or something in
Right.
the crowd. That
Right.
would be mean.
And if Ingles is out, you could look at one of the other key guys there on the wing for Chicago. Sorry, for Utah. All right, let's move to 10 o'clock. We've got 3 games to go
All
before the
right.
two brains
Our
line up.
after hour slate too.
Yeah, 3 gamers. So we start with OKC in Phoenix, 219.5 total. Phoenix favored by 13. They are the much better team here, 33-14.
Yes.
And for news here, lots of guys still out for OKC. Shea, Ty Jerome now out. Muscala still out. Dort still out with a concussion. Baisley, Horford, we know are still out. Pokuševski is available. And then with Phoenix, we have Abdel Nader, Frank Kaminsky out. Torrey Craig questionable. Now this is not a great game environment. We got the slow pace of Phoenix. Their number 6 defense. OKC is solid defensively. They're 13th. They're bad offensively. Maybe a value play or two, though, for OKC. A lot of the prices for these guys have gone up, but Svi Mikhailiuk is still 3,700 on FanDuel, coming off a 22-9 game, getting big shots, big minutes. He's playable for me. Moses Brown, a little bit interesting at 7,200. I think he could pay off value. Probably won't go to anybody on the bench for OKC. Probably one of those starters. On the Phoenix side, not particularly excited about anybody. Saric is, an option if Torrey Craig is out. I think his minutes are pretty solid in that 18 to 20 minute range. 3,800 on DraftKings GPP option, but not too excited about this game overall.
I'm with you 100%. This is probably my least favorite game on the slate, believe it or not. I think it's got a ton of blowout potential. You've got just a mash unit, basically G League team for Oklahoma City. Monty Williams isn't a guy that plays his guys big minutes, especially in the fact that, he wants to keep them fresh for this run down the stretch. So I don't want to spend up for the Phoenix guys. I think it's just throwing bad money at a situation that can easily bust. And then on the Thunder side, I agree with you. You get a little bit of value with even Maladon a little bit, Mikhailiuk and Poku. Those 3 guys, slightly in a possibility as a decent value. But I don't see the game script coming out here well. I know the rotation's shorter for OKC, but Phoenix slows the game down and they get you stuck in that half court set, and just too many good open possibilities on this slate. I'm going to pass this game.
Okay.
All right, Milwaukee and Portland, very interesting game. This game has potential. It's 3 by Milwaukee favorite, and the biggest number on the board, 236.5. So is this going to be your stack game, Mr. Andrew?
Probably not.
Oh,
Yep.
okay. Well, a couple of things. They're both on the first night of a back-to-back, so
Ding,
that
ding,
could be a
ding.
concern.
Yep.
Yeah. And then
Especially
pace is
Milwaukee.
right.
Yep.
Pace is 3-17. Defense 8 for Milwaukee, but we know Portland's just terrible, 29th. Lots of news that we need to see. We know PJ Tucker is still out. The newly acquired Teague and then Portis both questionable. Nazir Little out for Portland. So, you've got some scenarios here that are interesting. Dame is a stud. Drew Holiday is awesome defensively. He feeds on his offense and defense together. This is the best he's played all year. And so takes Dame out of the equation for me. In fact, I like Drew. I mean, he's not one of those guys, like I said, that if he's playing a tough opponent defensively, that wears him out and he doesn't get the offense. You can go back and look at historically when he has to rise up and play the guys like Curry and Lillard and these guys, that's when he has a tendency to score. I think he gets more into the flow, and he's been hot lately. So Drew is definitely on my radar for this slate. Um, I think you can consider the small forwards on both sides, Middleton and Powell, both playing, good, both priced in the same area. Can't afford both, but I think you got to take a look at both. Um, Giannis will probably be one of the highest guys on the slate, highest owned. But, Covington can defend, and they have guys that they'll switch off on him. I think they can give him enough trouble. And I know, he may be a good pay up spot for a lot of people. I'm just not going to go there. I would rather go elsewhere on this slate. And then the Portland Bigs, again, Nurkic, Canner. A lot of people are starting to, count on Nurkic, but there's still timeshare, so I'm not crazy about it. So for me, I like this game. I think you need exposure to this game, but I'm not going to stack it. I like the Holiday Middleton Powell theme to it a bit, and possibly CJ, but I just wish he wasn't priced so high. But that's it for me.
Yeah, you touched on all the key reasons why I probably won't stack this game. The other thing with Drew Holiday is that in addition to his price going up, those last two great games that he had were both in LA in the Staples Center. They even talked on the broadcast in the last one about how he gets hyped for playing close to home. And
True.
now they go up to Portland and it's the front end of a back-to-back. Milwaukee is not the team you want to get, too much exposure to when they're involved in a back-to-back.
Yeah.
So any of these guys could smash against Portland's bad defense, but I think I can gain an edge by fading it primarily. And
Okay.
then with Portland, I'm just not thrilled about the price tags with CJ McCollum, especially
They're
Lillard.
high.
His shots
Yeah.
down a little bit with McCollum back. Drew Holiday defense. The only price tag I kind of like is Covington on DraftKings. He's 6,100. I think he can easily pay that up. He's much more expensive now on FanDuel at 75. And then Nurkic, his minutes limit is an issue, 19, 19, 21. So I'm not expecting any big jump there. So could easily be a pass game here and hope that we don't get any extreme outcomes. And I just like the Minnesota-Memphis game a little bit more if I'm going to stack one game tonight.
The other thing I'll bring up real briefly here is you're not going to see me chasing many Portland, Lillard, McCollum, or Powell very much anymore. And I used to play Lillard all the time. But the reason being is Powell is a volume shooter and a good one. And that also pulls away from Lillard and McCollum. And then Lillard's pricing's based on when even McCollum was out. So he was getting all the usage. Now he's got McCollum and Powell to share the ball with. And that small forward spot has been basically taken by strictly defensive players like Jones Jr. and these guys that never shoot unless they're completely wide open last resort. So that timeshare at guard for Portland is not good DFS news.
Agreed completely. All right, last game of the night here. LA Lakers against Sacramento. 222 total. Sacramento favored by 4.5. They're on the front end of a back-to-back.
Yeah.
We do like games with Sacramento. Last in defense, top 10 offense, top 10 pace. And when these teams played about a month ago, it was pretty similar lineups, and it was 123 to 120. Schroeder, Kuzma, and Harrell were all awesome, but their prices have gone up significantly since then. So, even though Drummond is out, Wesley Matthews questionable, the price tags don't jump out at me for anybody. So I may not play any of the Lakers because of the prices. Sacramento, somewhat similar here. Hield and Barnes were great against the Lakers. Fox didn't do that much, and they didn't have Halliburton that game. So with
Right.
him back in the mix, Lakers really, as you continue to talk about, really trying to slow the pace down here with their key guys out. It's just not a great situation for Sacramento. So I may end up passing this one. We'll have to figure it out for the late games, the late slate. But on the main slate, this could be a pass for me.
I'm with you. It's odd because I don't think we've like both passed on a Sacramento game
Ever.
all year.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's just the scenario's right. I think they've over adjusted the Lakers subs now that are all starters because everybody's out, and the pricing just stinks. I'm a little tempted on Kuzma. I'll give two looks at Schroeder. I still think Halliburton's fair
Yep.
considering the monster minutes he's now getting, and Walton loves him. So those would be the guys I'll consider certainly for the after hours, but going to be tight to see if they get into my main slate.
All right. Well, speaking of the main slate, let's get our two brains lineup going here on FanDuel, and
Very good,
we'll let you
man.
start us off.
I think I got to pick first last time.
Oh,
Why don't you you can take first.
okay.
I mean, especially coming off your Bogdanovich call, I figured you'd want to like put him in there right away.
Oh boy. All right. So I have to get a 10x guy right off the bat here, huh?
Right, that's the expectation. No 8, we need 10.
All right. Well, how about out of the power forwards I'm kind of into, um, there's one here that uh, I think you would probably be more open to than the other ones,
Okay,
and it's Christian Wood. I think at 8,000,
okay,
I like his opportunity here, whether Wall is playing or not, and I like that he's a power forward on FanDuel. So let's get Wood out there.
beautiful. And I'm gonna give him a running partner at $3,500,
Ooh,
Jalen McDaniels.
wow.
How
I
about that?
think that's the brother.
Oh,
So
I put the wrong one.
yeah, Jaden is 46.
Oh, sorry about that. I clicked on the wrong one.
Yeah.
Dag on it.
I'm glad it happened because it's a good reminder. There
Yes.
are a few scenarios like this with
Yep.
brothers, McDaniels, Cody Martin, Caleb Martin.
You got to look.
You got yeah, it happens in other sports too. So it's a one good reminder to always double check the lineup right before lock. Make
Last
sure.
time I did that, I clicked on Lonzo instead of LaMelo Ball, and
Yeah, there's another
I
good
didn't.
example.
I had it in there and was building, and I said, "Wait, my pricing doesn't look right," and that's what I did. So
Yeah,
we will take the McDaniel's family at 4,600. How's that?
yeah, if only. Yeah. All right. I'm going to go ahead and put Elfrid Payton in here, 4,500. I think he's an awesome value. He's even
Elf on the shelf.
playable if everybody else plays, but decent chance at least either Rose or Barrett will be out. So let's get Payton in there at 4,500.
I like it. I'm gonna go with a guy we both I think like anyway, so it's not a stretch. I want to play Ja Morant tonight for a change.
Okay.
It's Minnesota.
Yep. Good price there for him,
So I'm
6,800.
matching you position for position.
Yeah. That one you spent up a little bit, but that's fine. It's a good price for him.
I got 46 on the last one, so
Yeah,
we're in great shape. We're
we
we're
are.
at 72.20
All right.
per guy.
Well, I'm gonna I'm gonna look for some correlation here and go with
Okay.
Joval, 7,600. Let's hope we get a
Wow.
lot of Ja to Joval lobs or at least entry passes. Get some assists on his bucket. So let's get Joval for
Yeah, I like it.
76.
Usually don't like Joe Val, so I'm a little surprised, but that's cool. I like him. I played him a lot. As long as he doesn't get in foul trouble, we should be golden. That's the key, though. All right. Now, again, follow this on Twitter if you're not a member or in Discord if you are. Nikhil Alexander Walker, I'm going to play. I think he's just he's young. He plays his butt off. I think he gets monster minutes. I don't think Lonzo's back. If Lonzo's back, we'll make a change. But I think at that sub 6K price, I think he's just 38-minute guy here against, probably injured Trey guarding him.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Next up, let's see here. We got a decent amount of money left.
I know we got to pay up somewhere.
Let's go with let's go with Porter, and we may change this if Wall is playing.
Okay.
Let's go with Porter for 6,000 as a small forward, and
Yeah,
then
that's not a bad price.
let's see. I mean, that's going to give you tons of money to pay up here.
Okay, so I got to make a big call on somebody that's going to cost some cash here that can run the entire deal for us. All right. here it is. And we explained all of it. And I think it's just an ass kicking play here because people aren't going to have any idea that he's going to go under owned. And we know the true story and we can change it if we need to. Donovan Mitchell.
Yep, I like it. I like
And
it
that
a
gives
lot.
you a lot, man. You got 7,900.
Oh, it does. Wow, it sets me
Oh
up.
my God, Jaylen Brown, my favorite play on the whole slate. You
Oh,
got to take him.
it sets me up for Jaylen Brown or Chris Middleton.
I know.
I'm not quite as into Jaylen Brown as you are, but I'll put him in
What?
here.
Put your Celtic screen on for a second.
Yeah, see? Unbiased. Unbiased.
I love it, man. You pick who you want. Who's going to win it for us?
No, I'll put him in there because with this lineup, it just makes more sense. We already have two Houston guys, so it makes sense to put him out there. I do like. I think Tatum. Even if Jayshawn Tate's on him, I think he can score over him. He's got the size advantage.
Okay.
But Jaylen Brown, he could smash here as well. I mean, it's certainly possible. So let's get him in there and finish out the mini game stack. So we've got Elfrid Payton, John Morant, Donovan Mitchell, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Jaylen Brown, Kevin Porter, Jaden McDaniels at 4,600, Christian Wood, and Joe Val at 76. I like the
I'll
sound
tell
of
you
that.
what. I'm gonna say this. I'll go on record. This is my favorite two brains lineup we've ever built together. I'm not having to swallow hard on any of these plays. I love them.
Yeah, me too. I'm excited about it. So jump in with us as a member because that's where we'll give the updates throughout the night. If it's during the slate, we need to make last minute changes. That's where we do it. So go to dfscoachtalk.com, pick up whichever length of membership you want. If you haven't tried us out yet, grab the 3-day pass for $10. Join us this weekend for all of our sports. It's an awesome time. Coach and Josh are off to a great start with our baseball lineups. You get all our basketball lineups every slate. Full FanDuel lineups, Yahoo, and then the DraftKings Coaches Clipboard. The BetUS offer is still there as well. BetUS.com.pa, deposit $149. Use the promo code CoachTalk, and you're going to get to use that $149 on your sports wagering action, and you get a free membership with us until June 1st. So basically a free membership. Any questions, reach out to us on Twitter at DFS Coach Talk. That'll do it for today. We appreciate you joining us. Make sure to come back tomorrow. Coach will have the solo Saturday slate ready to go for you. So that will do it. On behalf of Coach and the rest of the DFS Coach Talk team, I'm Andrew Hansen. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time as we look to crush it in DFS.